Well, good morning, folks. And yes, it is the next day. Bit of a bust yesterday in regards to the weather. The clouds closed in, and even though it looked like over to the west there was going to be a bit of a gap, it certainly wasn't going to be revealing itself anywhere here. So I decided just to go for a bit of a walk along through the actual town over to the sort of next couple of bays, where in fact the waves and the coastline is just as spectacular. But here we are this morning. Now again, while I think we're going to get some light, two things are against me. Number one, I don't think we're going to get it right at sunrise. In fact, I know we're not going to get it right at sunrise because the sun is rising behind the distant hills. And two, very little cloud cover above me. I had hoped, there's a little bit of wispy cloud out on the horizon, but I had hoped that if we weren't going to get any sunrise light, direct light, at least we were going to get some clouds above us. But you know what? Not too bad. Mountains, coastline. Right, let's see whether we can find something. Maybe one or two more shots to wrap up this vlog. Tell you what though, a little bit chilly. Oh, and I'll talk about the incoming weather in a little bit. So as you may already know, I'm not a huge fan of shooting into high contrast scenes. Now, as I left that little spot that I was recording this little morning intro at, the clouds were absolutely stunning looking, but I knew that wasn't really going to make an image. I decided to take one anyway, just because the huge big rock down there was rather nice. I spotted it yesterday as well. But yeah, just too contrasty. I shot a bracketed shot and yeah, I'll put it up anyway, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be much cop. However, instead of shooting into those clouds, I'm making use of the more pastel kind of subdued light that's being sort of semi-reflected in. Now, although we don't have a huge amount of, the clouds are starting to gather, high altitude clouds are starting to gather, we are still getting a nice little bit of subdued light down there. So I've just got the GFX set up 35 to 70 in a portrait orientation. I think I need to raise the camera up a little bit because I think I actually want to include a little bit more of the swell down below. And I quite like that ambient light on the rocks and some of the patterns the waves are doing. I think I've got like a 4-stop on there and I'm getting about a 3-second exposure. And of course, because it's a very even light, not having to worry about exposure bracketing or anything like that. Now, the other thing that I'm kind of thinking about is if that sun does poke up above the distant clouds, I might put the 1 to 200 on and see whether I can pick out some of the light on the top mountains, sort of facing away from the coast a little bit. But for now, I think we're going to slowly amble our way back down again, but always looking in this direction to see whether we can make the most of that subdued light. It is a beautiful coastline, mind you, absolutely stunning. Right, so as you can probably see on my face and on the rocks behind me, that sun has now broken the visible horizon a little bit further along. I thought it was going to be behind the mountains for longer. Now, it's starting to create shadows. They're not overly harsh at the moment. I made a couple of images. I've actually sort of gone quite wide on the 35 to 70 and including some of this left-hand bank. Now, at the moment, it's completely in shadow. And as you can see, it's quite a harsh shadow now. Well, harsh-ish shadow along those far distant cliffs. I'm going to wait and see how much that light sort of comes down. But I took a couple of safety shots, I guess, initially, where there was just the ambient light, or actually the direct light was still quite soft on the actual far cliff face. And I quite like, there's 3 boulders just down here that I'm kind of including on the left-hand side of the frame that I think lifts the light, because of course it's completely in shadow, that side. And then making most of the emphasis on the rocks, on the sea, rather than on the sky. A little bit of the sky in there, but I actually think that by the time that sun illuminates more of that lower cliff face. I think the light might be a little bit too harsh, but you never know. So that sun has temporarily hidden behind a cloud, which has given us sort of a much more even light. However, we've lost a lot of those pinks and we're now kind of more a bluey colour, which I don't think is working as well. Now, just as I'm speaking to you, that sun is about to poke up above that cloud. You can probably see a little bit of the light. In fact, I'm going to just take another image here. I've actually got it in a portrait orientation, and I put a polarizer on as well, just to sort of give a little bit more contrast to the sea. Getting about 5-second exposure at the moment. Obviously that's going to reduce now that ambient light is actually coming up. A little bit of light on those distant cliffs, but I think the best of the light has now gone, and certainly as soon as that sun gets above the cloud, it might be morning over. Hopefully not morning over, because that would be a bit of a disaster. Just waiting for a larger wave coming in. I think we now have a bigger set coming in now. It's been a little bit quiet down there. Yep, here comes a couple of bigger sets, so I'm just going to wait. I have got a 2-second timer on there. I should probably use my cable release. Just trying to get a little bit of movement in that little channel, and also right below me here, a couple of feet away from me. Just having to be careful that I'm not including any of the scrub in there as well. Okay, so there's that. You can see that. There's that harsher light now on that distant cliff. So this may be the last image of the morning. But what a beautiful morning indeed. Oh. You've heard me say this before, but what a stunning coastline, eh? Right, guys. Well, I think that is the morning shoot over. And in fact, this little vlog from northern Spain. I ended up coming up to, I think, one of the viewpoints I had shot at before yesterday, and again putting on the 1-200 and just picking out a couple of little abstract scenes, so that as that light sort of illuminated the rock face, and just playing about a little bit with the waves. Whether any of them work or not is the jury's still out on that one, but what a glorious couple of days. But of course, it's not going to stay like this. So while the next 36 hours or so are going to be dry, somewhere over there's another big storm raging, and by about 5 o'clock this afternoon, I think it's going to be about 50-55 mile an hour gusts. So that should make things interesting in the van overnight. I think it passes through relatively quickly. I think it'll be overnight, and then by about 6-7 o'clock tomorrow morning it starts to dissipate, and then by 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon I think it's completely gone. Doesn't seem to be bringing too much precipitation with it, but lots and lots of wind. Well, I'm going to wander back to the van, and then I'm heading out for a run. Lovely flat conditions around here, so I'm going to go for a nice long run. Come back, grab some breakfast. We've got some van logistical stuff to do, and then go find a place to hunker down overnight and escape the wind. And perhaps, if it's not too crazy tomorrow morning, maybe get back out with a camera and maybe record another little vlog. But from what I've seen so far of the northern coast of Spain, not too shabby. Right, guys, well, once again, thanks a lot for following along, and until next time, as always, happy pixels. Take care. Bye-bye.